My name is Tiffany Hart, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm so glad that you can join us for another Webinar Wednesday. This webinar series is brought to you in partnership by the Nova Scotia Tourism Agency and TIANS and is made possible through the Nova Scotia Tourism Technology Project. Just before I let Ross begin with the new networks, I would like to remind you that there will be a survey sent out after this webinar, and I encourage all of you to send us your feedback. Also, all of the previous webinars have been recorded, so if you've missed any, just check out our website at tians.org and follow the link to our YouTube channel. Finally, if you feel like you need one-on-one support, you may reach out to me at the end of this webinar and I can get in touch with you personally and we can figure out whether or not the mentorship program works for you. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoy the webinar and good luck, Ross.
Thanks a lot, Tiffany. Much appreciated. And thanks everyone for jumping on the line. We've been doing the webinars for the past few weeks now. We've had a great turnout back to back. The emails, the tweets, the comments, Facebook messages that I've been receiving from you guys have been overwhelming, and I appreciate all of your comments. I've been going through and I've been trying to tackle them. If I have missed any messages that you guys have sent me and you need some feedback or some advice on something, again, don't feel as if you're bugging me. Feel free to reach out and just remind me that I'm missing your email. Again, this is the last session of our Webinar Wednesday. We've covered a lot over the past few weeks, and today we're going to cover a lot as well. We've covered blogging, we've covered web presence, we've covered Twitter, we've covered Facebook, and today we're going to do a pretty quick rundown on 3 of the most popular channels today that I'm sure a lot of you have heard of: Pinterest, Instagram, and Snapchat. These are 3 channels that have made the press over the past few years consistently. They're channels that are changing the way that we interact with each other, and they're changing the way that businesses connect with their customers and their potential clients. What we're going to be discussing is how you can use Pinterest, how you can use Instagram, and how you can use Snapchat to really drive meaningful and measurable results for your business, and how you can actually drive new customers, more bums in seats, and more heads in beds. So I'm excited to talk about it. I've been using Pinterest since 2012, so it's not really one of those new networks like Instagram or Snapchat, but it's definitely a channel that's pretty new for tourism. Not a lot of people are really tapping into the full potential of it just yet. And there is a lot of opportunity there. So I'm excited to share with you some of the insights that I've uncovered over the past few years, along with kind of sharing some of the insights that I've gathered around Snapchat and the insights that I've gathered around Instagram as well. So this is our last one. Like I said, I can't believe it's over. I can't believe we've gone through it so quickly, but I'm excited to kind of chat with you guys about what we have in store for today. To give a quick rundown for anybody who did miss some of those earlier sessions, what we really covered was a combination of a few things. First, we talked about how today, in today's world, there's more content developed than there was ever before. We live in a world where there's more noise, there's more cat photos being uploaded every single day. We live in a world where the amount of content being created, the amount of content being shared is so significant that it's resulting in an entire new problem. The new problem is no longer coming up with content ideas and coming up with content. The new problem is figuring out how you can stand out in a world where content is so plentiful. And we talked about storytelling. We talked about how you can create stories and create messages that would allow you to really stand out, to allow you to differentiate yourself from your competition and from all of the noise. And today, Snapchat, Instagram, and Pinterest presents another opportunity. We talked about blogging and how you can create a content that is compelling or remarkable. Again, all of the past webinar sessions are up on YouTube, and you should definitely check them out if you want to understand kind of some of these core concepts, because a lot of the core concepts that we talked about with blogging, that we talked about with Facebook, and that we talked about with Twitter, a lot of these concepts we're going to use when we talk about Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, because the underlying principles that we have when we talk about content on a blog, when we talk about things like the 3 E's, creating content that engages, educates, or entertains, those concepts, those philosophies still ring true when we're talking about Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest as well. We talked about how when you're creating this blog content, when you're writing these stories, when you're creating how-to articles, or when you're creating articles about things to do in Yarmouth, in Cape Breton, When we create that content, we then need to figure out how to distribute it. And that's where channels like Twitter and Facebook came into play, where you could use Facebook to amplify your content and have it reach a broader audience. We talked about some of the ways that you could actually run ads on your Facebook posts. We talked about how you could distribute it. We talked about the difference between a Facebook page and a Facebook profile. We talked about all of that. And we also talked about Twitter, how Twitter could act as a channel for you to distribute your story. We talked about how you could use Twitter to communicate with the world, to build a stronger network of fans, of followers, and use that to drive traffic directly back to your site. We also talked about storytelling and things like Throwback Thursday. All of these items helped guide what we would consider the benchmark for any social media strategy. Facebook, Twitter, blogging, that combination is really the backbone of a solid social media strategy and plan. Sure, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of different options that are out there that you could layer on top of that, and you're going to want to think about things like TripAdvisor, you're going to want to think about Yelp, you're going to want to think about a whole bunch of other online platforms and how they impact your business. But with that core, you have an opportunity to be successful. So we're going to talk about a lot of channels today. One of those channels is Google+. Just kidding, April Fools. Google Plus is actually getting shut down. I've read from an article from Google where they're no longer going to be operating. So April Fools, I had to get one joke in. I didn't get a joke in the entire day. So thought I'd plug one in there. But what we are going to be talking about is Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And it's easy to say, I'm not going to use these channels. I'm not going to use Instagram. I'm not going to use Pinterest. I'm not going to use Snapchat. It's easy to avoid these channels because I'm not going to lie. It's hard to keep up with them. It's hard to keep up with the idea of all these new channels. Just a few weeks ago, there was a channel that launched. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, called Meerkat. And I wrote an article about how brands can use Meerkat. There's new channels every single week. Every single month, there's a new channel coming out. Just a few days ago, there was a new one called Periscope. And it's easy to avoid them, and it's easy to say, okay, I'm not going to pay attention. But when you get to a certain point, when you get to a point where you're talking about things like Snapchat and Instagram, you have to at least be aware. So I'm glad that you're attending this session. I'm glad that you're taking the step to learn about these new channels, because I don't want to have your logo on a slide like this where I'm talking about companies that weren't willing to innovate, companies that weren't willing to accept change as it was happening, because we're really in a new age. We're in a new age of content. We're in a new age of social networks, and it's changing very quickly. When you look at things like Snapchat and Instagram, one thing they have in common is a simple commonality around the power of visuals. Now, it might not sound like rocket science, but humans connect with images more than they connect with words. So you guys are looking at this slide and there's a lot of text on it. But when you see a slide and it has an image, you connect with it more effectively. It stirs up emotions. Not only does it connect with you on the intellectual level, it connects with you on a personal, more emotional level. Images allow brands and marketers and stories to resonate with people from both the heart and from the head. 90% of information transmitted to the brain that happens every single day is visual. Visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than actual text. That's why they get, again, I've said it before, that's why they give us coloring books when we're kids. 400 million Snapchats are opened every single day. 55 million Instagram photos are shared every single day. So to anyone who's questioning whether or not these channels are for them, I'm here to tell you that yes, Snapchat, Instagram are being used on a regular basis. In 2012 alone, Pinterest had 10 million users. That was in 2012. Today, that number is looking more closely to 30 million. So you need to recognize that these are channels that people are using actively, people are engaging on, people are communicating on, and it's an opportunity where you can tell your story in an effective way. Now, what I strongly recommend that you first and foremost recognize is we're going to talk a little bit about Instagram, but you need to be receptive to this. Things are changing. A lot of people have been resistant to the whole idea of Snapchat. There was actually Instagram, there was a few restaurants that actually put up signs like this: Instagram your meal and receive a free concussion. That's not the type of sign that you should have outside of your restaurant. Maybe you should say Instagram your meal and receive a free beverage or cocktail. because you want people to create this content and share it for you, but you don't want to tell people not to take a photo of your meal. The reason why, it's free advertising. If somebody comes into your restaurant and they're taking photos of your meal and they're uploading it, the average person on Facebook, recently Facebook acquired Instagram, so they're in cahoots. The average person on Facebook has more than 300 connections. So if I go into your restaurant and I have an amazing grilled cheese sandwich or something like that, and I take a photo and I upload that to my Instagram account, on average, my 300 friends are going to come across that. They're then going to comment on it. They're going to engage. And then there's a possibility that if you only got 10% of those people that have seen it, that you could get them into your store and you have 3 new customers. So that's the power. That is the power of Instagram. That's why Instagram is a channel that tourism operators need to recognize and embrace. And really, at the end of the day, it's just visual storytelling through content. That's all it is. And we've done a lot of talk about visual storytelling over the past few weeks. We've talked about how visuals can drive meaningful results through Twitter, through Facebook, and why visuals are really key. And this is why I strongly encourage that you look at how can you invest in photography? How can you capture some photos? How can you use photography to take your brand to the next level? If you have a smartphone, then you are already ahead of the game. With a mobile phone on its own, you can take photos, you can upload those to Instagram, and you can optimize them just from there. One of the things that you can do is you quickly, if you downloaded this app, there's a recent app that was just launched probably about a year ago. It's called Snapseed, and it's a Google app, so it's very great, and it gives you the filtering and special effects capabilities that a typical SDR camera would have. So you want to look at apps that allow you to make your photos better if you're using a mobile device, but you also want to just use the regular filters on Instagram. So the ultimate guide to Instagram. Let's go through this. Let's talk about how you can get started, how you can market effectively, and then let's talk about some of the case studies and examples that are happening in the real world that really take their Instagram accounts to the next level. So first and foremost, an Instagram account is very straightforward. You have a profile picture, which, as I talked about before when we discussed Twitter and when we discussed Facebook, should be your logo or avatar, something that is very distinct about you, that when people see it, they know it's you. Because over time, that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at that image. Again, remember that slide I showed you just a few seconds ago. People connect with visuals. If somebody sees the Starbucks logo, they're not even going to read the word Starbucks. They're just going to say, oh, it's Starbucks. Then they're going to look at your image. Same with you. If you show your logo, they're going to resonate with it, and then they're going to look at the image. And then those visuals are going to be what connects them with your brand. You want to have a description. So quickly describe what your brand is all about. And as you can see in this example from Starbucks, they even say, tag your coffee photos with hashtag Starbucks. So they're encouraging people to use a certain hashtag when they're talking about their food or when they're talking about their coffee, their products. So what you need to do is think similarly. Ask people to use a certain hashtag that is specifically relevant to your brand and put that in your bio. Additionally, think about your website. You want to include your website directly in your Instagram account as well. From there, it's all about just uploading photos. If you're not familiar with Instagram, it's really simple. What you do is you take a photo of something, you upload it to your account, you add a little bit of text around it, and then similar to Twitter, you can add some hashtags. That's really it. It's very simple. People follow you. You follow others, just like Twitter. The only difference is instead of you having the ability to simply put out text on Instagram, you can put out just an image. You can't put up a post without having an image associated with it. Not yet, anyway. So how can you market effectively? We're going to talk about a few different things. Some of this stuff we've talked about before, but I want to give you some examples of how it's being done on Instagram. The first one is brand-centric content, stories and messages that really tell your brand story, things that you're doing, things that are going on, some of your specials. This is the type of content that will really move the needle in terms of sales. You want to talk about reactive storytelling. We talked about that as well. I'll give you a little bit of experience and rundown on how people are using that. Behind the scenes content, we know that people want that authenticity behind the scenes, that transparency, to know what's going on. And then there's inspirational and motivational quotes. Like we said before, again, it's all about emotion. And if you can connect with people on an emotional level, it'll resonate with them, and they'll be more likely to connect with your brand. So when it comes to brand-centric content, there's a lot of local brands even that are doing this really, really well. Telling the story of what's new on their menu, telling the story of their chefs, telling the stories of their new rooms, talking about the weddings that they've been hosting at their hotels, bed and breakfasts, showing their views, showing the sunset. Brand-centric content is really anything that goes on during your day-to-day. Bar Stowell, which is downtown Halifax, does a great job with their Instagram account. What they do is pretty much every other day, they will upload an image that highlights every single beer that's on their menu. People see that, they start liking it, and then they start making decisions for the weekend. So they start saying, oh, I see that they have an organic propeller on. I also see that they have that Uncle Leo's IPA that I've been dying to try. I'm going to get there on Saturday so I can try it out. So again, they're sharing the day-to-day. They're sharing their menu. They're passing that along. And when you have people following you, they start to engage. So people are on there commenting, asking if certain beers are gone. Certain people are asking where this beer came from. That's the type of engagement that you want. Of course, I always recommend that you respond back to those people and keep that conversation going, because that's what's going to drive a relationship and ultimately drive them to actually come in and visit your place. Show them the team. If it's not a busy day and you don't have a lot of people actually in your restaurant or at your bed and breakfast, show a picture of your team. There's nothing wrong with that. People want to see the faces that they see when they go to your restaurant, when they go to your hotel. So don't have reservations around, oh, are we going to feel self-serving or seem self-serving? You won't. People want that transparency. People want to know the faces behind the kitchen. People want to know who's making the beds even. Like, people want to see who's behind this restaurant, this bed and breakfast. Because people don't buy from brands when it comes to tourism, especially in the local scene. People buy from people. People buy from brands and organizations and companies that they feel connected with. So if you can show your face, if you can show the faces that are helping provide that amazing experience, that'll resonate with people, and people will be more likely to show up. Introduce new products. If you have a new product that's on your menu, if you have something that is engaging and interesting, share that on Instagram. People love seeing products, especially food. If you're in the food industry and you're not on Instagram, I would say that this is one of the channels that you're definitely missing out on. You want to leverage the fact that you have food. Why? Because people love pictures of food. They go on Instagram specifically just looking for food inspirations so they can be drooling when they're looking at it. You can see that the Canteen NS is using all of the right hashtags. Things like Nova Scotia Eats, Visit Nova Scotia, Sandwich Porn, Foodstagram. These are the types of hashtags you want to use when you're taking photos of your food, because food is gold on Instagram. There's entire hashtags. There's one that's called EEEEEATS, Eats, that is solely driven around food. And people monitor it and they watch it and they simply like and comment and discuss different food pictures. Now, I'm sure some of you are looking at your screen right now and you're drooling thinking, wow, that looks good. And I agree. But this is the type of interactions that people have on a regular basis. And these people who are taking these photos using Eats as a hashtag, they have thousands and thousands of followers. People just following them to see what type of recipes and menus and products they're going to be taking photos of. This is an example. This is a food and travel writer. She has 50,000 followers. So an opportunity for local companies that sell food and have a product that is this visually appealing, reach out to local foodie bloggers and Instagrammers and ask them to come out and try your food. Don't be shy. Like, ask them to come in. Give them their meal free. Because what's going to happen is they're going to have their thousands of followers see that image, see that content, and they're going to resonate with it. So that's one opportunity that you definitely want to consider. One thing to also keep in mind, similar to what you would have seen on the Canteen's Instagram post, you want to comment with your actual post. So in this Instagram post here, you can see that the hashtags itself isn't in the main post. So the main post would be here, but the hashtags that this post is using are actually in the comments. The reason why is because nobody wants to scroll through their newsfeed and see a whole bunch of hashtags just jammed into the content. What Instagram does is if you put up a post and you put your hashtags in a comment, it still hashtags that image with those posts. Except the difference is nobody's getting annoyed because they don't see a bunch of hashtags clogging up their newsfeed. So you want to comment with your hashtags. You want to comment with hashtags like Nova Scotia Eats, Visit Nova Scotia, Foodgasm, food porn, Halifax, Cape Breton, travel, tourism. You want to hashtag those things, but you want to do it in the comments. You don't want to have it directly in your post. Just a quick pro tip. Reactive storytelling. Again, another opportunity for brands and marketers. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. We've talked about reactive storytelling quite a bit over the past few weeks, but I will quickly just give a rundown of what it means. It's when you take that top of mind, interesting story, something that is happening in the news. For example, today is April Fool's Day. Any brand that puts up something that is a joke or seems a little bit off the corner, people are going to be a little bit skeptical of whether or not you're actually telling the truth or not. I've been tricked way too many times today. But those top of mind interesting stories, you combine that with a brand marketing message, and that's when you have reactive storytelling. So if you put up a Facebook post and you say, we're now going to be offering trips to the moon, you put that up and you show a logo, your logo, you might show you're going to be having that very heavily branded. That's reactive storytelling. It's when a brand connects something that is top of mind with their own marketing message and then pushes it out there to the web. We've seen this example from Lululemon. When the royal family had a baby boy, they put up this post, Fresh Prince. Taco Bell, they've done it on Instagram extremely well. When it's Christmas, they take all of their hot sauce wrappers and they created a Christmas wreath. Again, very reactive. Recognizing that Easter is coming up. There's an opportunity for you guys. Tap into that. What can you do that resonates with people, leveraging chocolate, resonating with the bunny, whatever that may be. You can share content that resonates with people using something that's about to happen. On Instagram, Sharpie and Oreo did this extremely well when Gangnam Style, the video, went viral and Psy signed a deal. They both put out these two very reactive posts. So Sharpie took a short Sharpie and they drew Psy from Gangnam Style. And then Oreo just put up a post with the cream from the Oreo doing the horse dance. Again, very simple, but very clever. And both of these posts generated a significant amount of conversation and buzz. So the other day when Trevor Noah is named as the replacement for Jon Stewart, maybe you do something that plays off of Jon Stewart leaving. 5 things Jon Stewart wishes he would have experienced in Nova Scotia before he left The Daily Show. Whatever that may be. Content like that. Behind the scenes, we've talked about this a little bit, showing the people who are behind your brand, but a few companies that are doing it well. Steam Whistle Brewing out of Ontario, they show right behind the scenes how people are making their product. They're showing people bottling their beer. They're showing people making the packaging. They give people an inside look on what's going on behind the scenes. TechCrunch, a newspaper company, just showing people who are working and their birthday gifts. So they're showing somebody who's happy and excited because they got this pet dog as a birthday gift. They're taking this image. People are resonating with it. And again, it's just connecting with them on a human level. If you have a restaurant, if you have food, again, remember, people love food. And what they love even more is when they can see what goes into making that food so delicious. So this is a company, Roxy's Grilled Cheese. This one image showing a bunch of chicken wings getting fried up in what they call the pit has more than 250 likes on Instagram. People started commenting. People started saying, yes, please, I would. That looks amazing. Fried chicken and waffle ice cream sandwiches. People are talking about how they want this. As a result, they're getting people engaged about their brand, talking about their brand, engaged about that experience, and people want to go there. So show people the behind the scenes of what it takes to actually create the delicious meals that you serve. Inspirational quotes. Now, when I talk about inspirational quotes, I'm talking about any type of quote or piece of text or a line that sparks emotions, and resonates with people on a human level. This is the type of content that really does really well. And it really does because with Instagram, because it's so visual, when you have a big piece of text, people read it and they resonate with it very quickly because that text is taking up a significant amount of landscape within their newsfeed. These are two brands that are doing it extremely well. Lululemon, of course, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from our own actions, the Dalai Lama. So they simply wrote that on a chalkboard, put it up on Instagram, and it had 10,000 likes. This is a post from the guys at Ford. They simply said, the greatest things in life is experience. Even mistakes has value. Henry Ford. Again, very inspirational content that resonates with people. We've talked about the science behind motivational and inspirational quotes. We've talked about why this type of content connects with people. And if you want more details on the why, just check that out. Check out some of the earlier webinars as we dove into some of the psychology around why this stuff works. This company, California Pizza, they put up a post. It's very quirky. It's funny. All they say is be grateful, right? But they show a grate next to it. So they're a pizza company, very clever. They show some cheese you can grate. Be grateful. Very simple, very simplistic. What's even more special about this is they put it up on Thanksgiving. So they hashtagged it Thanksgiving, which made it, again, more of that reactive type of content. But again, it's very simplistic and to the point. Another one that these guys did that went really well was all of you so much, it hurts. So again, it's very quirky. It's still very cute, still kind of funny. All of you so much, it hurts, kind of resonating with people who are in love. And as you can see, what starts to happen is because they're putting up this inspirational and cute quote, people started to comment and tag their friends. This is modern romance. So they're tagging their partners, they're tagging people who they love, they're tagging people who they care about, and they're saying things like, hey, look at this, kissy face. Or they're tagging someone and they're simply saying, hey, Lady Fiesta, this one's for you. So they're tagging people and showing them what they're all about. So by doing that, this brand is then resonating with more people and it's being seen by more people as well. And I know at first glance, a lot of this might sound very cheesy and you might be saying, oh, I'm not going to put up this content. It's very cheesy and it's not my brand. And sure, it ain't easy being cheesy. But this is the type of content that really works with people. People want this content. It resonates with them. And when you share it, when you create that content, people will like your photos. People will engage with your photos. So you definitely want to consider how you can use inspirational and motivational quotes to connect with people on a human level. So the next type of content that I want to discuss is user-generated content. And user-generated content is the idea of getting people to tell your story for you. When you can do that, when you can get the audience to really tell the story for you, you're able to kind of build a reputation that isn't just built off of your own message, but it's built off of the message of your loyal fans. And people are more likely to trust other people than they are a brand, than they are what you're saying on your own Instagram account. So you want to entice them to say, okay, let's take a photo of my meal when I'm at this restaurant. Let's take a picture of this view that I have when I'm at your bed and breakfast. That's what you want to do. So I'm going to show you a few examples of companies that have done this really well. A few quick things that you should also keep in mind. Use hashtags. So hashtags need to be a part of your Instagram strategy. When you're using Instagram, you want to consider how to use hashtags. Some of those items that we discussed before, you can quickly go on Google and type in what are some of the top travel hashtags. And again, don't be afraid to look at what other people are doing. Look at what other companies who have a large following on Instagram have done with their hashtags and use those in your own activity and in your own work when you're putting up content yourself. And then have call to actions on your images. Don't be afraid to tell people to do something. If you want people to like a photo, you'll be surprised how quickly they'll like a photo if you tell them to. So don't be afraid to do that. So let's talk about some contests and content user-generated content marketing ideas that have been done before and have been done very well. So Dunkin' Donuts recently ran a campaign where it was called Upgrade Your Sandwich. They asked people around the world to use the hashtag upgrade with 2 Ds, hence Dunkin' Donuts. Take a picture of your sandwich and then what they did was they gave a gift card to people who had an ugly sandwich or a sandwich that didn't look that appetizing, and they essentially would send it to people. So what ended up happening was that people all around the world started to send photos of the sandwiches that they were taking for lunch. Dunkin' Donuts was able to generate a whole bunch of conversation, a lot of discussion. They were able to even pick up some earned media because they ran this campaign. Brent's Deli, it's another example. This one's out of the US. Very simple. What they did was they're a more home style, home cooked meal restaurant. What they did was they asked people to upload photos of what they make at home. And then they would upload those photos to their own account. And then they'd ask people to like the ones that they wanted Brent's Deli to incorporate in their own menu. So it was sort of like a crowdsourced campaign where they asked people to take photos at home, and then they'd take inspiration from those various items and start to create their own menu based off of the users' suggestions. Don't be afraid to host an Insta-EVENT. So this is again, Roxy's Grilled Cheese. What they actually did was they said, these are some of the photos, these are some of the foods that we know will connect with people. So they run actual Instagram events where you can come in, you can try a bunch of different foods, but you'll also be taught how to take a great photo using it. So if there's a local photographer, you can reach out to them, have them host the event at your restaurant. And then from there, what you're able to do is you can get people to start Instagramming about the fact that they're at your restaurant, at your hotel. If you're a hotel, if you're a bed and breakfast, maybe you get a room and you just invite a bunch of foodie bloggers. Maybe you invite regular people. Maybe you get one foodie blogger to host the event. The opportunities there are endless. But if you can host an Instagram specific event, you're opening up an opportunity for you to generate a lot of conversation online. What would you rather? So this is a post from California Pizza where they simply showed two different types of pizzas and they asked people to vote which one would you rather. So by doing that, they're getting people to quickly take a second to really just engage and interact and discuss which one would they rather have, a California veggie or a margarita pizza. And then as you can see, what happens in the comments is that people start actually commenting, saying which ones they like more. People start saying, oh, I like the margarita. Now, this person here, now you have me craving everything there. That's the goal. That is the goal. That's what we actually want as operators. We want people to say, now you have me craving what you're offering. So you want to have these types of fun. You want to have competitions, have contests where your fan base can actually engage. At the end of the day, though, that's really all it's about. It's about having fun. The Drake Hotel out of Ontario, their chef simply was asked to send a picture of a Drake pie, which is the name of their hotel, for their Instagram account. And this is what their chef sent. They ended up putting it up on Instagram, got some laughs, got people liking it. Again, simple humor. Don't be afraid to have fun on Instagram. Don't feel as if you need to follow a specific rules or set of guidelines. Have fun. Break the norm, recognize some of the things that we talked about today, but ultimately just have some fun with it. So then there's Snapchat, and there's a lot of press about Snapchat, and it can go one of two ways. Either somebody's saying Snapchat's great, or people are saying Snapchat's horrible. And I'm a big fan of Snapchat. I'm not going to lie. I think that Snapchat is a great marketing tool. Can it be used for tourism? I think so. Has it been used for tourism? Not as readily as it could be. It's still, again, one of the newer networks, and it's one that people are still really just starting to figure out. So what is Snapchat in a nutshell? Essentially what Snapchat is it's a channel, it's a tool that allows people, well, yes, let's get that out of the way first and foremost. It's not just for nudes. A lot of people think that Snapchat is a tool that a bunch of students use to send naked photos with each other. That's not what Snapchat is. What Snapchat actually is it's a tool where you can actually send a photo. Okay, let's be serious. Sure, some people probably use it for that. But when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about brands, the majority of people are not using Snapchat for that. They're using Snapchat to simply send messages. They're sending it to tell us a quick story. And what happens when that story is sent, that story disappears very quickly. So this is an example of what a snap would look like. So if I send you a snap, you'd get an image on your phone, and then that image would disappear after a certain amount of time. It could be an image. It could also be a photo. So if I took, it could be an image or it could also be a video. So I could take a video of myself doing this webinar right now, send it to anybody who follows me on Snapchat, similar to the way that they would follow someone on Twitter. And then that photo, that video would disappear shortly after. So it would go to them, it would then disappear, and they could never see it again. So that's really one of the most interesting features around Snapchat, because that's all it is. Snapchat is a place where you can send a photo, send a video to someone, add a little bit of text, even add an image. And then once you do, that content disappears and the person can no longer see it again. Here's an example of kind of the steps that you would take to send a snap. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take a photo or make a video. If you're using a smartphone, then you can use Snapchat. You take that photo, you make a video with it, and then you can draw or you can even write text on top of that photo. So as you can see with the image on your right, that's me. I've taken a photo of myself and then I drew on myself. In the bottom left corner, there is a timer. So I get to say how long this actual snap is viewable, how long someone can see this Snapchat, how long someone can consume it, how long somebody can interact with it before that Snapchat itself goes and disappears forever. After that, I select and send to a certain amount of recipients, the people who I want it to go to. That's really the next step. So I want to send this to all of my followers. I have to go through the process of selecting those individuals and having it go to them. What happens is when you send a snap to someone, they get a notification on their phone that says you have just received a Snapchat. Because of the whole mystique around Snapchat, not knowing what you're going to get, we are in an extremely interesting time because everybody who gets a Snapchat opens a Snapchat. Because sure, maybe most people just have their fingers crossed thinking it might be a nude or something like that. But the reality is we're still at that time where Snapchat is so interesting to people that people are still trying to see and excited to see what's going to be in their snap. And businesses recognize this and they're using it very well. Taco Bell is an example of a company that is using Snapchat extremely well. Every other day, they're sending you a snap about their products, about things that are going on. And when you think about the concepts around what type of things should I send, it's very much aligned with what we talked about before. The same philosophies that we talked about with Twitter, using Throwback Thursdays, about reactive storytelling, about creating brand-centric content, things that are going on in real time. All of those items, all of those ideas are still things that you want to do with Snapchat. And similarly to Twitter and Facebook, you want to promote the fact that you're on Snapchat. You want to tell people that you're on Snapchat. You want to let the world know, look, we're using Snapchat, we're embracing this thing. And by doing so, you also increase the opportunity of actually generating press and getting more media mentions. The first brand to use Snapchat in tourism, whatever that may be. You can get those types of conversations going. Within Snapchat, there's also Snapchat Stories. What Snapchat Stories is that it allows you to carry a story along, a message or a video along for a longer period of time. So instead of it being 6 seconds, the videos that you share to your story, everyone has a story, which is considered like a feed where all of your content goes and it can be watched over and over again. That content itself, if you send your post to that, it simply builds on the last post that you sent before, or the post you sent before that, or the post before that. As a result, you start to have a long story that people can watch up to an hour of footage and content. This is something that you'll see happen during events, festivals, conferences, and things of that nature. One thing that you should also consider, if you have product offering that you can offer discounts or any types of deals, Snapchat can be used as a way to kind of give people a quick and easy promotion that is exclusive to them. People like the idea of being a part of an exclusive group. And Snapchat is a perfect opportunity for that. This brand, Karma Loop, what they do is they send people promo codes. So as you can see here, use code 14FRESH. Skater Rob wants you to use 40 extra. And then what that does is it gives people discounts. People see that on their phone. They're excited and they're running to the website to buy that product, to buy that clothing, all because of a snap. give people behind the scenes looks, show people what's going on in the kitchen, show people what's going on behind the scenes, show people what you're doing on a regular basis. If you're hosting an event, if you're a part of a parade, whatever that may be, show that experience on your Snapchat. And if you have someone on your team that's creative, you can have a lot of fun with Snapchat. You could become a Snapchat celebrity if you're able to create things like this, where you're able to draw directly on your image before you send it to someone and engage in an interesting and unique way. For tourism, I mean, one of the biggest opportunities would be to highlight that extreme activity. So if there are people, if people have the opportunity when they're on site to go fishing, to go kayaking, canoeing, snowboarding, whatever that may be, if there's any activity that people can take snaps of it. People want to see that content. People enjoy watching that type of entertainment and sports and activity. But that's not all that needs to be distributed on Snapchat. A lot of people are already using it to replicate the similar concepts that we talked about for Instagram. They're sharing pictures of different pizzas. They're sharing pictures that are more reactive. So on Valentine's Day, there was a restaurant that sent this out to all of their followers. It just said, "Take me back." And it showed kisses and roses around one of their burgers. A hotel, it sends a snap before any wedding that it hosts, showing people the linen, showing people the setup. Again, just connecting with people on a more human way and showing those visuals that really resonates with them and is more likely to get them to come back. Promote special events. Whenever there's a holiday or an event, there's usually a custom theme that you can use on Snapchat. So as you can see on the image on your right, there's that big visual of a leprechaun at the end of a rainbow. That's built directly into Snapchat. So if you're hosting a St. Patrick's Day event, if you're hosting an Easter dinner, whatever that may be, promote those events, promote those holidays, and share them on your Snapchat accounts. Snapchat, again, is still relatively used by a younger audience. It's not being used by 50-year-olds. It's not being used by 90s, 80s-year-olds. It's being used typically by people who are even younger than me, who are in their early 20s, 19, 18. So it might not exactly be a channel for you, but it's one to keep an eye on. A channel that is probably for you and you might not recognize is Pinterest. Pinterest is an online collection of shareable pinboards that are visually and easily categorized. What that means is people essentially, you can think back to when you had a cork board on your wall and you would take a bunch of newspaper clippings and you would pin them to your board. Maybe you had a section that was called travel or places I wanted to go. Maybe you had a section that was called fashion or dresses that I want to buy or shirts that I want to buy, and you would pin them to a board. That's what Pinterest is. It's a place where you can pin things that you want to do or things that you want to see or want to buy, and it's really taken over the web. It's a great channel, and when it comes to tourism, it's becoming one of the primary planning networks. People use Pinterest primarily to plan two trips, two significant events, when they're getting married and when they're going on trips. Those are two things that people look at Pinterest as a primary planning tool when they're doing. So when people are planning vacation, they're going to Pinterest for inspiration. They're going to Pinterest to find out where they should stay, what they should do, what they should see. So by you having a presence, you have an opportunity to close a sale. And if you are in the wedding industry as well, like some of the hotels or bed and breakfast or catering, there's a huge opportunity there as well. You can tell your story through Pinterest and you can connect with people. But who's using Pinterest? 80% female. 80% of Pinterest users are female. 60% of them have some college, and the majority of them, more than 50%, are between the ages of 25 and 45. So this is an audience that you would be crazy to ignore. This is an audience that you know is going to be, one, making the travel decisions, because studies have shown that the female in a relationship is the one who primarily makes the travel decisions, but where they're going to stay, where you're going to go, where you're going to eat. And when you're in that age bracket between 25 and 45, you're typically doing the majority of your travel. So you want to recognize these stats and say, okay, this is a channel I should be considering. So how does it work? If you go to Pinterest and you type in something, you'll get a bunch of results based off of what other people have pinned. So what other people have said, this is important to me. You will get results from what people have created as collections, which is a board. So if you, again, have a board that's all about travel, you would pin things to it. So somebody who's planning a trip to Nova Scotia would pin pictures of Yarmouth, they pin pictures of Sidville Hill, they pin pictures of Cabot Trail, they pin pictures of all of the different things they want to do when they come to Nova Scotia. How this works for somebody who's a first-time visitor and is just starting to get into that process, they're going to go onto Pinterest and they're going to type in Nova Scotia, and then they're going to see some of these results. As they scroll down, they're going to see pictures of the Sidville. They might pin that to their board. By pinning it to their board, they're saying, this might be something I want to see when I go there. They might see this house and they might say, oh, I want to see this house, so I'm going to pin this as well. Again, it's a part of the buying process and the buying behavior that a traveler would have. They then might click on travel. They might click on food. They might click on cottages, might click on Cape Breton. They might click on all of these things to help further facilitate their learning and inspiration for what they need to do when they get on that trip. So what do you want to do? You want to create a complete profile. Nova Scotia Tourism is a great example of a profile on Pinterest that is optimized and well used. Their content is being pinned by hundreds and thousands of people all over the world. You want to replicate this type of success with your own account. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have a logo, you want to fill out your URL, you want to give a description of what people can do when they're there, and then you want to start creating boards. And we're going to talk about those boards in a little bit. But one thing you want to recognize is you want to do this, you want to create this entire account because of the fact that people are using it to search. A board is as simple as this one here, the places in between. So within this board, there would be a bunch of different pins, which are different pieces of content that are specifically around this topic, or Nova Scotia food and drink. So in this board, Nova Scotia Tourism would have pinned a bunch of items that they would have thought are good food and drink within the province. So you want to create boards like this as well. But you also want to use keywords in your headlines, because if I'm going to Pinterest and I know that I want to spend a weekend in Cape Breton this summer, I'm going to start my search by typing in Cape Breton. So you want to have Cape Breton written in your posts. So as I'm looking through this, I can see, okay, these are Cape Breton, this is about Cape Breton, this one's about Cape Breton Island. Maybe I'm interested to see what this is all about. I click on it, I'm reading, I'm learning more now about Cape Breton weddings. Okay, I'm going deeper. Then I realize that this is a board that's being put on by the Celtic Lodge. So the Celtic Lodge is then connecting with people, showing a whole bunch of content about Cape Breton weddings, but it's probably all at the Celtic Lodge. So what's happening is people who are going to Pinterest are finding this content, they're consuming it, and they're saying, if I get married in Cape Breton, I have to do so at the Celtic Lodge. Brilliant. What you want to do is simple. You want to capture great photos. You want to put those great photos online, and then you want to profit. Essentially, by doing so, you want to tell your story in a visual way. We talked about how powerful visuals are. Visuals and images are going nowhere. They are still one of the most powerful channels or most powerful mediums for telling your brand story, especially in tourism, whether it's food, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a hotel, whatever it may be. You want images, because as you can see, this person, Gina Payne, no idea where she's from, but she pinned this piece of content and she said, to remember. So she added it to a board that's called To Remember, meaning that she wants to remember this. Maybe it's to remember it when she starts taking her trip. Who knows? Either way, this shows that it works, and this shows that there's an opportunity for tourism operators to really leverage Pinterest to drive results. Another example, create and distribute content that are things to do. Things to do content does extremely well on Pinterest. You can see this post here from Nova Scotia Tourism, 5 things to do in Cape Breton. That's the type of thing that people pin. It has 196 pins on that post. You want to create content that's similar. Top 25 things to do in Nova Scotia. This is, again, a collection. This one has 295 pins. So 295 people pin this to a board. It might have been a board on travel. It might have been a board on what to do in Nova Scotia when they go, whatever that may be. This is the type of content you want to create. So if you're in a local area, don't be afraid to collect local experiences and create your own content that replicates this type of thing. A few board ideas: where to eat in Yarmouth, places to stay in Yarmouth, things to do in Yarmouth, shopping in Yarmouth, walks in Yarmouth, museums Yarmouth, free stuff Yarmouth, whatever it may be. If you do this and you're in Yarmouth, you're going to be killing it in terms of SEO and just having content all over Pinterest that is specifically about your brand and telling a story that says, okay, this is the hotel, this is the restaurant that really gets it. This is the restaurant that I want to shop at or I want to go to because they're the one who's going to provide me with the best stay because look how much they know. You also want to share your neighbors. So if there's things going on that don't directly compete with you, have no fear in pinning other restaurants. So if there's a board that you develop that is called Things to Do in Cape Breton or Wolfville, pin the other locations, pin things that are next to you because people will start to see that content and they'll start pinning it while they plan a trip to your area. How do you ensure that this is easily ready on your website? You want to put Pinterest buttons all over your site. So when I say all over your site, it doesn't need to look like Pinterest threw up on your site. You need to just ensure that people can pin content directly from your website to their boards. If you go to the Pinterest Help Center, they give you the code and the line of code that you need to put on your website to make this a reality. And it will really make a difference in your account and on the content that you're pushing through your website and through your social channels. So you definitely want to check out the Pinterest Help Center, send it to your coder or your developer who's managing your site, and they'll be able to help integrate this very well. Whoa, so that's a lot of content. We've talked about Instagram, we've talked about Snapchat, we've talked about Twitter, we've talked about Facebook, we've talked about blogging. We have covered a lot of things in the last few weeks. I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of it, but I'm sure right now you're asking, okay, Ross, you've covered all of these things. What is right for me? What should I actually use? And I'm going to tell you exactly what I told you during the first class. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. We've covered a lot of stuff, but you need to figure out what lines up well with your audience, with your goals. That's really it. If your goal is to simply start by driving more traffic to your site, let's just start with blogging. If you've already got a blog started and you're simply trying to raise your profile on Facebook, then let's just start focusing on Facebook. If you are struggling with customer service, if your customer service isn't where it needs to be, people are sending negative things about you on Twitter, then let's focus on Twitter. Figure out what it is that you actually want to achieve. Figure out where your audience is spending time. Because I can probably say that the majority of you don't need to be on Snapchat. It's worth knowing if you have the time, if you have already gotten your other channels at a good spot, then maybe you can consider it. But once you've actually identified who you're trying to talk to, who you're trying to connect with, what you want them to do, the plan and the next step for you is to figure out your story and then tell it in a captivating way. And yes, a lot of this stuff might sound challenging and a lot of this stuff might sound staggering, like it's a lot of work. And it really is. But sometimes you really just have to leap. You have to jump into these things. You have to jump into channels like Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and just learn on the way. Build your wings on the way down. And if you're able to do that, I can promise you that you'll be able to find success and you'll be able to really differentiate yourself from all of the competition. Guys, thank you so much for the last few weeks. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I'm happy to take some questions. I'm happy to engage with you. If you have questions that you haven't had a chance to ask during the webinars, reach out to me over Twitter, send me an email. You can reach me on my website, rossimmonds.com. I even have a book on content marketing. If you want to buy it, I can give you a promo code for everybody on the webinar to give you a discount. I really want to see you guys drive success out of this. And I really want to see more companies and more brands being successful using social media. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to stick around for a bit and answer any questions that you may have around some of these new networks. Thank you very much. Thanks, Monica. Thanks, Jennifer. Glad you guys enjoyed it. So we have a question from John Stinson. Living where we have no cell phone coverage, I have tended to think of Pinterest and even Twitter as really better with cell. Is that true, opposed to desktop or laptop? Twitter definitely, Instagram as well. Pinterest is more of a web presence, so it's really more of a laptop or desktop application that you would want to use it for. But when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to Instagram and Snapchat, those are very mobile first applications. So you would be looking at Pinterest to use as a web presence. Twitter is very much mobile and would require you to be flexible with that. Appreciate the comment, Patrick. Much appreciated. All right, so I'm just going to pass it over to Tiffany so she can wrap up.
Hi, everybody. So I hope that you can hear me okay. I just wanted to say thank you to Ross for this awesome presentation and for the whole series, really. You've been great. And to everybody who logged on today and to all of the other webinars. I hope that you were able to get something from each of the webinars or from the ones that you had attended. And again, if you did miss any of the webinars, those can be found on tians.org through our YouTube channel. So I just wanted to say thanks, everybody, and I hope that you have a great day. Thanks.
Take care. Oh, I see a question from Leslie. Keep posting similar things. I'd say yes. Focus on creating that kind of brand consistency and communicating that story, and you'll be able to really drive home meaningful results with your content. How do you keep images fresh on Instagram? You want to share food, you want to share different things, but really you want to just take different photos. So you don't want to share the same image every week. You want to share different content, different images, but fall within the same vein. Some of the examples that I talked about through this webinar, if you check out their Instagram accounts, you can see a lot of those great examples of how they do it, and I would say replicate that. Peter, looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks again, everyone. Take care.